Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight for another episode of Spanning the Need. Tonight, we'll be talking about officiating in sports. One of probably the two biggest things that everyone's looking forward to is more sports. And we're going to be talking with Beau Rugg, who is the Senior Director of Officiating and Sports Management for the Ohio High School Athletic Association. Beau, thank you for joining us today and taking time out of your busy schedule.
Happy to be here, Tony, just looking forward to the future, I think.
I can only imagine how busy your schedule is right now with everything going on in sports seasons, events being rescheduled and shuffled around. So I can only imagine, and let me guess, you guys are probably working from home as well?
We are. We're going back into the office every other day. We have two different groups starting tomorrow for the month of July. So it'll be interesting to see how that is, but we've been home since mid-March.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have actually been home mid-March or once the governor kind of told everyone to really stay home. And that's kind of been a big thing with a lot of people is now you're working from home, more Zoom calls, more less face-to-face. So I think that kind of helps with now you're really doing a mindset on how you're doing things.
Yeah, exactly. It's just been it's been difficult at times each day when things change, and some of it's a little difficult when it's it seems like Groundhog Day every day. But it's just you just have to try to go about things in the best way possible.
And I think that's you take one day at a time, and you just kind of go from there.
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about your background, Beau. I know you've been at some high-level collegiate athletic departments and before you came to OHSAA. So give us a quick rundown of where you've been and what you've done to get where you are now.
Yeah, I was I got my first Bachelor of Science from Ohio State and got a grad assistantship in recreational sports at Ohio State, and fortunately was introduced to one of my mentors, Fred Beekman, and he got me involved in that. And collegiate recreational sports was something that I was interested in, and I pursued. Interestingly, Fred was the manager of state high school track meet for 50 years and an official for 40 years. And so he got me involved in all those types of things also. And so I really got a good taste of the sport world. And Fred was the person that got me involved in officiating. He got me involved in helping teach the class back when classes were not mandatory in officiating. He started teaching the class, I think, in the early 60s at Ohio State. And so he was the kind of mentor that said, you want to get involved in a lot of things. And I did. Officiating was something I got involved in really before I came to Ohio State, just because it was something to do. I was at University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, and I needed something to do in the summer, and I kind of got involved. And then I kind of nurtured that at Ohio State. And serving students in the sport realm has been a passion. And being able to officiate has been a passion. So, at those times when I retired from Ohio State, I never thought I would be able to have an opportunity to let that passion evolve more. And Dr. Ross called me with this opening, and it's been a great 9 years. It's been 9 years already. So it's a neat thing. I think being involved with the track meet, then I was the manager for state high school track and field after Fred for 25 years. And then I always helped with the state wrestling tournament. And so I've officiated football and officiated basketball. So I was involved very much in the high school realm, as well as doing shot clock for basketball at Ohio State and managing the press box timing for Ohio State for football, and just being involved in events has been, kind of a passion that that was really nurtured, and now it serves me well in this job.
And I can only imagine, and as a basketball official, a volleyball official, and a softball official, we love the sport. That's why we do it. And I think everyone, you can agree, it's for the kids, but we enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it's interesting when you talk to people that aren't officials, and someone they'll need something, and I'll say, well, I know some people that will help with whatever, and they go, really, who? And I said, well, you just don't understand the officiating community. They are a giving group of people that want to help. All that. That's why they do what they do. It is for the passion, and so that bleeds into everything they do. I mean, I have friends that are officials that I can ask anything, and if I need something and does anybody know anything about X? I'm gonna find somebody, and they're gonna share it because that's the way they are.
And it's a close-knit fraternity of officials.
Yeah.
No matter where you go, college level, the major league level, or NBA, any of those, it's a fraternity of officials where you pick up, you can call and say, hey, I'm official from the state of Ohio looking for some information. They're more than welcome and open to talk to you about sport, and what happens over there. And it's a different element of the game.
It is.
And I think that we kind of take a step forward now. Now we're at a pandemic level where all of spring sports have been canceled. So that means no team play, no scrimmages, no officials, and facilities closed. So how has OHSA been handling the pandemic with kind of behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's it's so very multi-layered in the fact that, in April, we're looking at, in March 1st, we're looking at, okay, we're going to postpone winter championships. I mean, I'm on the floor at St. John Arena for girls basketball when we decided to stop, and they're warming up prior to the first game, and so the hope was, can we get these in sometime? And as things started to develop, we saw that wasn't going to be the case. So, the first thing was winter was championships were canceled, and then we looked at spring, and we had 2 or 3 different scenarios for spring, starting on time, starting in the middle, just having a tournament, different types of scenarios, hoping to say or hoping to do at least one of them. And when it became apparent that when schools were finally closed for the rest of the school year, it was that spring was out. And then, then we're looking at summer, what we do in the summer, and fall. And we've been on that train for about a month now of looking at what's going on and what are the possibilities. And I just outlined a bunch of possibilities to our executive director today about football. I'm the football administrator, and there's a lot of different scenarios that could happen, and we could find out some information Thursday from the governor's office that will direct some of that. And the more information we can get, the better off we are. But it's difficult for the governor's office, for the state health department, when they don't really have concrete answers. And that makes it so difficult to plan. I mean, a week ago, it was looking like everybody was going to be back in school and we're going to push forward. And it's been a tough week. And now people are hesitant on how to stem the spike that's happening right now, and how is that going to affect us going forward? And we're one piece of that pie. They've got college and professional athletics to look at. It's an interesting thing. I mean, they've got on the other side, they've got businesses to look at, and what's safe to do, what isn't safe to do. So what we've had to do is really take all of that in. How does it relate to what we're doing? Certainly for us, it's about what are our schools going to be doing, and then what can we do from a sport perspective, and what changes do we have to make it more safe? And so you gather a lot of information to try to sift through it and move forward. But it's interesting daily. It's not like it's and I'll get to that next week. It's daily. We're making changes and tweaking things minute by minute.
Well, and I think that brings up a good point. Is it's like I remember about a week or two ago, we opened up some sort of open lifting some of the facilities, which kind of made a good start. And I know working with as being the old sports information director for one conference in the Mahoning Valley, that those teams were doing really good job of social distancing, cleaning their stuff. But now you start seeing, not in high school, but in college, you start seeing like almost every day, at least 2 or 3. LSU had football players that have tested positive. You had Rutgers. Couple colleges have canceled all their fall sports. And I know that affects officials as much as it does players.
Yeah, we're all of this, and we're planning, and we're looking at what we can do, and what things are going well, and as you say, really in the high school realm, I think our opening up and gradual opening up of what students can do has gone very well at the high school level. What hasn't gone well in our state, and much worse in other states, is the community and community spread. So, how does that relate? And because that's the one thing that in college, at least, they probably can trace and track back to where everything is, and they can quarantine some people. Our kids are going home. Our kids are in the community, and that makes it difficult. And this whole thing, as we try to work on it, we say there's 2 groups that I feel for, because of the devastating loss that they feel. We feel the loss, but we've got to get up every day and try to say, what can we do to make it better? But the loss that's felt by the athletes and the officials, because they don't have anything. And athletes are starting to come back a little bit and working out and getting with their coaches. That's a great thing. Officials aren't yet. I mean, they're just waiting and hoping, and they're a great group, and they're ready, and that's a good thing. And we're on board meetings or whoever, and we say, we may not have enough officials when we come back. And I said, actually, I think the officials are foaming at the mouth to come back. Now, are we going to have some that are just they're concerned and they don't know if they want to go into that environment? Absolutely, we are. But I think the other side of that coin is our schools, our board, and us in our office, we're very concerned about if we do come back, we're going to have some positive tests. Now, for the majority of our athletes in their age range, a positive test isn't going to be a big deal. And there's some mitigation going along, but what's the average age of our officials? We're at 50. I mean, and so that average means we've got a lot of people over 60. And, how can we do the best job we can to make sure they're safe in those environments? And those are the questions that we have to have answered before we start.
Well, and let's gear towards that. Now let's talk about officials. And we already know that from articles all across the country, National Federation has put one out, OHSAA, that there is issues with officials. We are short-staffed in officials. And I'll be very honest. My wife will probably yell at me for this, but I'm okay with that. I'm mouthing like I'm ready to get running with the basketball, get back to the kids and stuff like that. So I'm with you. They're foaming at the mouth. And so what are some of the things right now that we're looking at official wise that that if you'll have more officials this year than you did last year or vice versa?
Well, we're in renewal period right now, and we usually are from June 1st to June 30 is our main renewal period, which we had been averaging about high 80% of people renewed then. And we have some late renewal periods. We pushed it back this year to June 15 to July 15, and we took out the late fee that used to be from July 1, July 15. And so hopefully we wanted to give everybody an extra couple of weeks to feel more comfortable about that we're going to have sports. I don't want to renew if we're not going to have fall sports. And then we extended the late period for people that are winter sport officials or just spring sport officials without a late fee, so that they can look and see what's happening before they make the decision. Our percentage is running pretty strong through the first couple of weeks, and I feel good about that. But it's we look at it every year, and we don't know until all the renewals are done to what are our numbers, and then and our classes. How are our classes? Right now, I'm seeing a couple classes for fall sports have been really good. Good news, bad news. The bad news is we're really struggling economically across the country, across the state. The good news for us is when we struggle economically, our highest number of officials was, I think, 2008, 2009, when we were in a deep recession. So I think we'll have the opportunity to bring some people in. And so from a numbers perspective, I'm hopeful that we'll be solid. We're better off and have been better off than most states. Nationwide, there's a bad attrition of officials. There's an attrition of officials in Ohio, but we're not at the level that some states have been as far as losing officials. So those are good news points, but it's a never-ending process. We have to keep bringing new people in, and we have to do what we can do to have our retention rates stay high. And there's a whole there's a plethora of things we do on the retention end, and that's from people that are 5 or 6 year officials. Are they getting sectional games? Are they and part of my job really has been in the last 4 or 5 years is working with our district boards who run our sectional district tournaments to get on the same philosophy that we have. We've got to get more people involved in those so that they are prepared to get the types of games they want in regional and state. And but if you have few people doing a lot of games at sectional and districts, that doesn't do us any good. And we've had some great successes there. Central Ohio, when our Central Ohio basketball assigner for sectional and district started, I think 80 different officials were used in boys and girls basketball. This past year, over 200 were used in sectional and district. And that's getting a lot of people involved in tournament basketball, which is what they want to do. and keeps them interested and moving forward. And so we have to do that, and we're doing that in many sports in many of our districts, and some are struggling, but they're getting better. But we have to work hard on that because that's our retention piece. And then when you bring new people in, how are we doing on getting them involved in a local association, doing games in a good environment? And we need to sell our environment better. Our environment's a lot better than the recreational environment that's out there. So it's constantly working at those things to keep our numbers.
And I know let's move a little bit to the side of that and kind of build on that and saying, you talk about recruitment of officials. You talk about, hey, we have officials there, but we're still low. We're still down. I forget the number, and correct me if I'm wrong, Beau. I think we were down like 10 to 15% from last year. Is that number accurate?
No, I don't think we were down that far.
I'm just asking because I don't remember what it was.
Not in total numbers. And it varies by sport too. We're up in a couple of sports, down in some others. And the tough thing is for us, it's like, well, was it 2 years ago? Was it last year? I can't remember. We had a nice surge in basketball. Well, basketball is the one we don't need the surge in. We need the surge in soccer, in volleyball, and in lacrosse, and so those are ones that we've kind of had some different emphasis on and trying to get some people involved. And some sports are better than others. We could be better in football. And so, I think we're seeing some improvement there. One of the things that's helping us in kind of, I don't know, a silver lining in this age of COVID when we're online all the time and doing everything is we've had to say, well, we need our educational requirements, mostly the meetings that people go to, but educational requirements, they need to be online. We need to have virtual classes, and everyone has stepped up to do that. And I think that's getting more people involved because it's easier access. And it's something that if you're young, that's the type of access you're doing every day and everything you do. So I think that's going to help us as we move forward. It's kind of drug us. We were behind the curve, and we're catching up to the curve now on what we need to do with technology, and that's going to help us.
And now we talk a lot about recruitment, and we talk about, hey, now technology is kind of building into the classroom where not many people may know this, that, hey, as an official, no matter what sport you're continuing education every year. You're doing classes online, you're doing meetings in person. So there is continuous education. No matter what anyone thinks, they can yell all they want, no matter what sport it is. There is continuous education. And I think that's what kind of, sorry, I might be a little bit biased because I'm, as an official, we read the books every year, all year round. We're doing it. We're doing games and scrimmages. So we're doing that to get better. But now you got the piece that when you go into an arena, no matter what sport it is, that now you're getting the older officials retiring quicker, and then you don't have enough younger officials to replace those ones that are leaving. So you kind of don't have a retention that what we used to. As you said earlier, the age of your officials are getting older. And that was a huge article that was put out by a variety of different, and they said that they asked I'll quote the article, when more than 2,000 high school athletic directors were asked in a recent national survey what they least liked about their job, 62.3% said dealing with aggressive parents and adult fans. Now, that also goes to say that I think the percentage is actually higher when it comes to officials.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about how that plays into these officials.
Yeah, one of the things that we've done, and I credit our executive director Jerry Snodgrass with, in our town meetings and regional updates and things where we talk to our schools and our member schools. He's gotten us involved in that from the officiating end, and we give the news of this is where we are with the number of officials, this is what we're trying to do, and then we've really pushed, and this has really just been in the last year and a half. I'm really pushing. Hey, you're our partner in this, and the fact is we've got to get control of our environments. And for the most part, we've got some outliers out there, but the high school environment is pretty good. We have some issues, but we have most of our member schools will take care of those. I said, we've got to get control of the middle school environment. I got video just from this past year. There's an altercation on the court, and they're coming together, and this fan walks right down from the stands onto the court. And in my time of playing, coaching, officiating, basketball, it's like a barrier. Nobody goes on the court. And it's commonplace now that I can walk onto the court. That's unacceptable. We have to get those environments under control, and it's difficult. And we need the help of not only our schools, but our coaches when they meet with their parents. That we need the parents' help. We need the good parents to be the ones to say, we want to help you. We want this to be a good environment for our kids. And so it's one of those things where we've got to reach out to all those groups. And our schools are behind us. They want to help in any way they can. And you know what? They're going to have to help in a big way as we come back to playing sports now in the COVID environment, because it is different. How can we spread people out? How can we spread our officials out? I mean, do you have a room big enough? So, I was a football official for a long time. There's a lot of places that were not nearly as big as half my office for 5 of us to dress in. And, we can't do that anymore. And those are the types of things that changes that will be coming. But I think it's heightening the awareness of the environment and how important that is. And I'm hopeful that helps people understand that the environment is something we need to control better for all those reasons. Coaches don't like to deal with it. Administrators don't like it. It's at the top of their list, and at the very top of officials' lists of unruly parents and fans.
Well, and I think that the study went on to say that there was what are some of the reasons why we can't retain some of our officials across the board?
Well, National Association of Sports Officials did a survey. They had almost 19,000 officials from across the country, and the number one was the abuse. I mean, it's number one. But I think what we found in Ohio, and one of the reasons why we are better off than most states is my predecessor took the plunge a long time ago. Gosh, was it 20 years ago? It probably was. Might have been 25. That you had to take a class in our biggest sports to become an official. And the great thing about that is they feel more prepared. And so we didn't lose as many as other states are losing in that first year of I'm in this environment and I'm just lost. Oh my gosh, I'm out. They feel more prepared. I think our educational requirements and what we're doing help people. So our retention rate compared nationally is far higher. I think we were in that first the survey. I think said the first 80% or 90% attrition in your first 3 years or something like that. And we were far better than that. We're retaining 60 or something percent, and they're only retaining 20 in that first 3 years. And because it's so you just bring new people in, you lose so many, but you keep bringing them in. It's like sales. It's like selling a gym membership. It's okay if you have 50% retention because you're selling more. No, we need high retention. I think that's what you give them a good experience and keep them, and you're going to be a lot better off. And so, we're better than other states, but we can get better with the partnership with our schools as it relates to the number one issue, which is abuse.
Do you feel that sometimes an official, or maybe during this, you got this pandemic now, officials may not want to go back to officiate because we're still in this COVID mentality? Do you think it's going to be a huge effect on our officials once the fall comes around, if we're still in this pandemic?
Yeah, it's hard to tell. What I'm hearing right now is people are really itching to get back, and that's a good thing. But the reality is, if you feel vulnerable, and if you experience, and we don't really show that environments are safer, and those types of things, it could turn the other way. But I think the initial reaction will be people want to come back. We're going to have some that won't. They just won't feel comfortable just because of the pandemic, and I understand that. But I think you're going to have more that feel good about it. Heck, my question has been lately, how many schools aren't going to come back? How many schools are not going to participate in athletics during this pandemic? We're going to have some, I guarantee it. And so that's a reality. It's how well you do to make sure you show how safe things are, and what you're doing to keep things safe will help those numbers be lower rather than higher.
And I think that's a great thing, because safety is for everyone: players, coaches, student athletes, officials, even the public itself. So I doubt any school district is going to put anyone at odds with this. But we know small schools, big schools rally around sports. That's what brings community together, sports in general. So I think that, so what do you look for moving forward on the recruiting of new officials, even down the road? Like, what plan do you guys have, if any, to kind of recruit more officials for any sport?
Yeah, our plan is varied in many ways. We use our stakeholders to help in our plan. Number one, our local associations. What I've told them, our directors of officiating development in each sport. I've told them, our office, our district administrators, all of those, their number one job is recruitment. Our instructors for our classes, number one job is recruitment. And then, we kind of have taken the step this past year and more is to talk to our officials. And in every group I talked to last year, I looked at each official and I said, what are you doing to help sustain this? What are you doing? Because I guarantee people that their kids are playing, and then their kids are done playing and they love the sport. Get them involved. We've got over 14,000 officials in the state. If 10% of those bring one person along, it's a lot of people. I mean, if we all are involved in this, that's how we recruit. One-on-one is your recruitment strategy. And so our local associations talking to people, our instructors, our district administrators, and now our schools are heavily involved. We've got almost 50 schools that are teaching officiating as part of their curriculum. And the more we get young people involved, they don't help right away, but you get them involved. And if you can keep them involved when they go to college, come back, what have you, they're still involved in the sport. And that's what's most important. You have to show that you can stay involved in this sport, even though you're not going to be a coach and you're not going to play this sport beyond high school. You're going to you're going to either get a job now, or you're going to go to college and get a degree and get a job, but you still have the love for the sport. You can stay involved. And that's how we have to get them young enough for them to understand that and then hopefully stay involved.
Well, and I think that's a great point, is get them while they're young, right out of high school and right at high school. Well, Bill, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's been busy. Are you up for a little Q&A?
Sure.
Okay. This is a two-part question, so it'll come up on your screen. This one's from Glenn. He says, do you feel in percentages we will have a football season, or do you believe more will be answered on Thursday?
I believe we'll have a football season. I feel very good about that right now, even though it hasn't been the greatest week as far as cases. But yes, I do think we'll learn some things on Thursday as far as sports in general, and that pushes what we're going to do. We'll learn something about schools, and that will push what we're going to do. The question is going to be, is it going to look different, and is it going to be shortened? What's it going to be? I need some good information from our health organizations to know how drastic do we have to be to alter it. But I think we will have a season.
That's a big question for, I think, everyone, because if you have football, you're having all fall sports.
Correct.
Pretty much. In some maybe different social distancing, what that may be. There's when you're on a bus, it works a couple different ways. Yeah. So I appreciate the question, Glenn. So this next question is from Eric. I'm going to put it up on the screen. It says, will the 2020 Winter Championship get a chance to finish their season?
No, they will not. They will not. That's, to me, the saddest part of this pandemic for high school students. They won't be able to graduate again. They won't be able to play their spring sports. They won't be able to do their winter championships. Whether there's some sort of something out there to honor them. I saw something that Huntington Park did this week on your last at bat, and they had some area high schools, and they could come down and they had their picture on the screen, and they got to hit some balls and to try to give them their last time in that uniform with their seniors. It's a couple of lost seasons for those seniors, and it's awful. But that, again, that time has passed. It's so hard for us in high school to go back because people leave. It's the natural progression of it. So.
Yeah, and I actually remember the game that you guys they did it right. It was West Branch girls, because it's right down the street from me. And you're at that far. You're in the Final Four. You're of that division, and then all of a sudden everything comes to a halt.
Yeah,
it's tough. You get
brutal.
That far, all the hard work that for officials, players, coaches, the parents, and I think, yeah. So, okay, here we go. This one is from George. Let me put it up on the screen. If you can't play fall sports, will they move the football season and other sports to another season during the school year? I know that's been a topic just in general.
It's out there, and it's our National Federation of High School Sports Association summer meetings were Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and are they tomorrow too? I can't remember. But we usually go somewhere. It's supposed to be in Denver. They were all virtual this year, and I was on the lacrosse discussion, the football discussion, and the main parts of those discussions were this: are we going to switch seasons? Are we doing this? I know some states are talking about it. In fact, I talked to some people today that said their state is seriously talking about it. We don't. That is, I don't know if last resort's the right word. Nothing is off the table. It can't be, because if you can do something, we want to do it. So it's not off the table, but it's not high on our list of talking about right now. especially since our spring sports didn't get to participate. And there's the other thing about football is talking to the national football medical group, their chair, Dr. Keister, said, there's real concerns that if some states go with a spring football sport and then come back and play in the fall, that much in a 5-month period is not a good thing. So those are the kind of things you have to think about. At the same time, it's a reality that whether it's a school, a high school, a college school, and our organization, football pays the bills. I mean, you want to have field hockey, and you want to have volleyball, and you want to have swimming, and you want to have all those things, and yet your highest revenue sport you're not going to have doesn't equate. So at some point in time, you have to look at what can you do to keep everything whole. We'll do whatever we need to do. It's not something we're talking about as a proposal right now, but nothing's off the table. That's the best I can say.
Well, I actually appreciate the honesty, because we know that there's too many unknowns. You don't know what's going to happen day after day.
Right.
And I think that's the frustration of everyone, including coaches and players and administrators like yourself, that tomorrow we could have a vaccine. But
yeah,
we're kind of at that point where we don't know.
We don't know.
So, but Beau, I appreciate you taking the time for us tonight. It's always a pleasure. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Spanning the Need. Stay tuned tomorrow, where we'll have Mahoning County commissioners in the state of Ohio talk about how their counties are dealing with and handling the pandemic. I appreciate it. Be safe, and God bless.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.